the edges of time, before man raised his voice to the heavens, there was a war. Not a war of steel or earthly armies, but a war of light against shadow, of obedience against pride, of heavenly will against unbridled ambition. Who was the first to fall? Was it beauty that turned into arrogance? Or was it the desire to be equal to the Creator that ignited the spark of the abyss? Lucifer, the brightest, the bearer of light, the angel who sought to rise above the eternal throne. This is not the tale of a mere rebellious angel. It is the story of a fall that split the universe in two, the story of the birth of hell and of a dark plan to claim it all. A new kingdom was forged, not with stones, but with pain, not with justice, but with desire. A place where souls fall, not by punishment, but by choice. A place where the whispers of temptation are stronger than the cries of repentance. Where every shadow has a name, and every corner is a reflection of the darkest depths of the human soul. Where hope seems like a distant echo, redemption, a forgotten illusion. Where the mighty crawl in search of meaning, the fallen find thrones in despair. Kingdom of eternal fire, but also of choices, where judgment becomes everlasting condemnation. But what happens when light descends into the realm of darkness? What happens when sacrifice shatters the chains of eternal suffering? Can a single soul redeem all the others? Or is the price of sin higher than even heaven can pay? Today, you will cross the gates of the abyss. You will see the fire that does not purify, but condemns. You will hear the voices of those who chose power over truth, and you will witness the final confrontation between the Prince of Darkness and the Son of the Promise. You will discover that evil does not always scream. Sometimes it whispers, and that heaven's silence is not always absence, but preparation for the most glorious redemption ever conceived. This is not just a tale. It is the oldest and most present spiritual battle that has ever existed. A war that still burns within the soul. In the heart of heaven, where the light was purer than any dawn on earth, where the song of angels filled the firmament with eternal harmony, there stood a figure unlike any other, Lucifer, the morning star. There was none like him. Clothed in glory, forged with the fire of precious stones, crowned with wisdom, beauty, and unmatched power, he was the closest reflection of celestial perfection. He walked among the sacred flames, and his light was so radiant that even the angels turned their gaze away as he passed. Something began to burn within him. A spark. Small. Silent. The thought that glory was not meant to be shared. That he, the brightest of them all, should not bow before anyone, not even before the Creator. Why sing praises to another if it was his voice that made the heavens tremble? Why bow before a throne if the throne could be his? And thus, desire was born. Not of justice, not of redemption, but of absolute dominion. A desire that transformed into ambition, ambition that turned into rebellion, and rebellion into war. Lucifer began to speak, first in whispers, then aloud. He questioned, he defied, and many listened. Ancient angels, wise ones, the curious. Some followed him out of devotion, others out of fear, and still others because of the same ambition that burned within him.
We are not servants. We are heirs of the light. We were not created to bow for eternity. The light was not made to imprison us, but to be our inheritance. We are worthy of it. Heaven gave us wings, not chains. If we are to burn, it will be with our own light.
His words were sweet as honey and sharp as steel, his arguments flawless, a celestial logic twisted by pride. And thus, heaven was divided. A third of the heavenly hosts began to incline their ear to him. Eternal order trembled. Perfect harmony turned into dissonance. Eternal love was tainted by doubt. The throne of God remained in silence, the universe expectant. For this was not a mere act of disobedience. It was the first crack in eternity. And then a voice was heard, firm, radiant. It was Michael, the warrior archangel, not with hatred, but with justice, not with rage, but with sorrow.
Lucifer, you who once were light, why did you choose the shadow?
His voice cut through the firmament like a sword.
Was the glory you were given not enough? Do you not see what you are destroying?
Lucifer did not answer with humility. He did not answer with repentance. He answered with fire.
I am no slave. I am the true light. I will not bow before a throne I am unworthy to serve. The universe needs a new order, one where freedom is not bound to obedience, one where power is not the privilege of only one.
Michael lowered his gaze, not out of weakness, but from the sorrow of seeing a brother fall. Brother with whom he once shared the song of creation, with whom he flew across the skies when they were still without a name. And in that instant, heaven trembled. The celestial trumpets fell silent. The firmament darkened for the first time. Eternity held its breath. Harmony was broken. And then it began. The great battle. Angel against angel, light against light, divine order clashing with celestial ambition. The swords of fire were ignited, the hymns turned into roars of war, and heaven, that perfect place, became a battlefield. Lucifer raised his banner, shining with corrupted power, dragging with him entire legions who preferred the promise of dominion over the peace of obedience. Michael, with the strength of heaven itself, led the hosts loyal to the eternal throne, not for vengeance, but for justice. And in the midst of chaos, time seemed to stand still. It was a war without blood, yet not without pain. A war without corpses, yet with eternal consequences. Lucifer raised his final cry.
I will not serve! I will not serve!
And with that cry, judgment was pronounced. The light that once surrounded him was extinguished. His wings that once shone like the dawn turned dark. From the heights, he was cast down. He fell. Not only his body, but his name, his glory, his purpose. And with him, those who chose to follow. Heaven was no longer his home. Lucifer fell, and with him, the radiance that once illuminated eternity was turned into a shadow, dense, heavy, final. The firmament split open like a wound, and the universe groaned at the exile of the first of the angels. It was as if creation itself wept at his loss. His wings broken, his essence shattered, and yet, in his eyes, there was no fear, only fury, pure fury. Fury against the one who had cast him down. Fury against heaven, against Michael, against all who chose obedience. The fall was not only physical, it was spiritual, emotional, cosmic, a total separation from the source of light, an eternal rupture, a severing from the very purpose of the soul. The fallen angels who followed him screamed as they descended, their bodies wrapped in fire and darkness. They were thousands, each one different, each one marked by a reason, but united by a single choice. rebellion. Eternity seemed to twist, as though time itself recoiled in lament. Space ceased to shine, and peace, that eternal melody that ruled the heavens, became a broken echo. When at last he struck the bottom of the abyss, the impact was like a sacred explosion. A wave of darkness expanded, tearing a vast wound into the plains of existence. There was no fertile land, no open sky, only emptiness, only desolation. A dimension not created by God, but forged by the consequence of disobedience. Lucifer rose from the ashes of the universe, covered in dust, yet his soul ablaze. Defeat was not in his lexicon, neither remorse nor repentance. Only one purpose remained: to reign. He was no longer an angel, no longer a bearer of light. Now he was master of the abyss, lord of the fallen, prince of a kingdom that did not yet exist, but would be born out of ruin. He looked upward. There was no heaven, only a scar in the fabric of space where once glory had dwelled. And then he spoke, not as a threat.
Heaven was our birthplace, but it will not be our prison. The war has only just begun. We have fallen, but we have not been defeated. Our flame will burn beyond the throne.
From the shadows of the abyss, figures began to emerge. The fallen, wounded, disoriented, but not defeated. One by one, the exiled angels rose, shaking the ashes from their broken wings, gazing around them with eyes ignited by pain and by fury. Lucifer watched them in silence. His eyes were no longer light, but burning embers. And when he spoke, his voice made the darkness tremble.
We are not the defeated. We are the first. The ones who dared to defy blind obedience. The ones who chose fire over submission. The ones who chose to write their own destiny.
The fallen gathered around him. Among them were great names: Asael, the strategist; Belial, the cunning; Leviathan, the serpent who whispers in the darkness. All awaited a word, a direction, a cause, and Lucifer gave it.
Heaven has taken everything from us. Our glory, our wings, our name, but not our power. That still remains. Within, burning brighter than ever before. And now it shall be unleashed. This abyss shall be our kingdom. Here we will forge an empire like no other. Not of light, but of darkness. Not of obedience, but of freedom. And from here, we will stretch our shadows to the very depths of creation.
The fallen angels roared. It was not a cry of pain. It was a declaration of war. A roar that shattered the silence of the abyss and echoed to the farthest reaches of existence. Lucifer raised his hand, and from the ground rose tongues of black fire, taking shape, forming structures, columns, thrones of obsidian and flame. The abyss responded to his will. Darkness was being ordered. Chaos was given purpose. A new order was born, not from light, but from the fall.
They will call us demons. They will curse us. They will fear us. But they will also fall before us.
Lucifer did not only desire a kingdom, he wanted vengeance. He wanted heaven to see what it had created by casting him out. A king, a lord, a god of darkness. And so began the construction of hell, not as punishment, but as response. The shadows of the abyss were no longer chaos. They were taking form, taking structure. Hell began to breathe, not like a sleeping beast, but like a newborn monster, hungry for souls and purpose. And at its center, upon a rock as black as the oldest night, Lucifer raised a throne. It was not made of gold, nor adorned with gems. It was forged from the very essence of the abyss. Pain, pride, and eternal fire. From there he looked upon his own, the fallen, the rebels, the forgotten by heaven. Their faces no longer shone, their wings were ruins, their hearts burned fiercer than ever before. One by one they approached, not out of obligation, but out of loyalty, not bound by chains, but by conviction. They knelt, and in doing so, they sealed their choice. There would be no return, no redemption, only the path forward, in a kingdom where darkness was no longer punishment, but banner.
Here begins the kingdom of darkness, an empire that will not be bound by divine laws, nor by heavenly compassion. Here, there will be no borrowed glory, only power conquered. We shall not serve the throne of the Most High, for now we are kings of our own destiny.
Asael, his general, stepped forward to the foot of the throne. His body was no longer that of an angel, but of an infernal warrior. In his eyes burned the same.
And what shall we do with men, Lucifer? Will they fall as well?
Lucifer smiled. For the first time since his exile, a dark, triumphant smile.
They will be the key. They have freedom. And in that freedom, we will make them ours. We will show them what heaven does not want them to see. And when they fall, they will become our weapons.
From the depths, fissures began to emerge. Fire, smoke. A new energy was born, fed by ambition, by envy, by disobedience. Hell was no longer just a place. It was a force, a will, a legion. And high upon his throne, Lucifer closed his eyes. He was not defeated. He was not exiled. He was waiting for the moment to extend his kingdom beyond the abyss, beyond time, beyond men, till it touched heaven itself. The throne of Lucifer was no longer a mere declaration of power. It was the center of gravity for an empire in expansion. Forged with fire and blood, supported by pillars of living rock, the palace of the fallen king rose above a bottomless abyss, shrouded in black clouds that distilled pain. From there, hell ceased to be chaos. It became structure, perfect machinery of darkness, fueled by human condemnation and sin. The souls that descended no longer merely screamed, they were transformed. Some twisted into beasts, others, molded in fire and rage, became soldiers, and the most corrupted were chosen to be the heralds of terror. Thus were born the first infernal legions. Lucifer did not seek only vengeance, he craved dominion. For that, he needed hierarchy, order, a vision. He divided hell into regions. Each one would be a physical representation of a deadly sin, and over each, he placed a prince. Asael, his fiercest general, was named Lord of War. His domain was the field of perpetual fire, where weapons were forged from pain and steel sang with fury. Belial, the deceiver, was given the illusory cities, where souls lived false lives before collapsing into despair. Leviathan ruled the dark mirrors, cursed reflections where the damned endlessly beheld what they would never possess. Mammon reigned in the caverns of eternal desire, where every coin burned hotter than the fiercest gold. And so, demon by demon, Lucifer apportioned his realm. Each region was a distorted reflection of the human soul. Each legion, an extension of his will. But something was still missing. Lucifer wanted expansion, not only over the dead, but over the living. For this he summoned Amen, the architect of the impossible, a creature twisted by infernal geometry. He entrusted him with a single task, create a bridge between Earth and the abyss. The Nexus. Once completed, the gates of hell would not only open, they would remain open. Through them, hell itself would walk. Amon, the architect, was no common demon. His body seemed an impossible fusion of bone, metal, liquid fire, and dark energy. His eyes two bottomless pits dripped with living geometry. Each step he took left cracks in the infernal ground, as if hell itself rejected him and, at the same time, required him. Lucifer explained his will, an interdimensional nexus, a living structure with roots in the abyss and branches that reached into the human world. Not a mere portal, but a corrupting organism, conscious, sentient, capable of influencing, capable of devouring faith. Amon accepted, not out of obedience, but ambition. To create the Nexus was to sculpt the architecture of absolute evil, a feat neither the archangels nor the ancient gods dared to imagine. For 77 infernal cycles, Amon worked without rest. He used damned souls as spiritual mortar, minerals torn from the heart of the abyss as its foundations, and most importantly, blood of fallen angels, extracted drop by drop, symbol of eternal betrayal. Every drop that touched the structure made it throb, as if it were alive. The Nexus began to grow, first as a twisted spiral sprouting from the ground like a corrupted seed. Then it took the shape of a tower living, agonizing, wrapped in chains, eyes, mouths, and black fire. Whoever gazed upon it felt their soul stripped bare. Whoever listened heard voices from their past. Lucifer beheld it, satisfied.
With this, we shall have direct access to their weakness. Wherever there is fear, desire, or doubt, the Nexus will open.
And so it was. On a moonless night, while the world slept, a root of the Nexus pierced the veil between dimensions. It emerged silently in a remote desert, invisible to human eyes, yet palpable to the soul. Hell now had a living gate, and the spiritual war was about to begin. With the Nexus now active, Lucifer summoned the princes of hell. They gathered in the Hall of Voices, a cavern so vast it contained the echoes of every sin in the world. Every word spoken there was heard by all condemned souls at once. The laments never ceased. They were part of the very spiritual architecture. Asmodeus, Leviathan, Beelzebub, Mammon, Belial, Astaroth, and Baal arrived with their legions. Their faces, twisted by corruption, still bore remnants of the angelic beauty that once set them apart. Each brought the report of their dominion over men: carnal lust, corrosive envy, insatiable gluttony, relentless greed, subtle deceit, political manipulation, and imperial pride. Lucifer listened to them one by one. His expression was impenetrable, but within him burned a silent urgency.
All of this is not enough. Humans still hold on to hope, and as long as they have it, they don't belong to us.
Astaroth, the strategist, proposed to corrupt the pillars of human society: family, faith, justice, education, and language. Belial suggested a subtler attack, to alter truth itself, to divide the perception of reality, to make what is good seem evil, and what is evil desirable.
Baal added, "We shall confuse their symbols, their values. What cannot be named cannot be defended."
Lucifer smiled. For the first time in millennia, it was exactly what he needed to hear.
We no longer need armies of fire. We need armies of ideas, concepts that will infect them from within.
From that day, The plan was clear. Cultural infiltration. A spiritual war disguised as freedom. Corruption in the form of progress. Ideologies dressed as empathy. Lies clothed as justice. The legions received their orders. No more frontal assaults. Now they would be whispers, algorithms, songs, books, influencers, entertainment. While the world celebrated its advances, hell applauded from the shadows, for no one suspects what they consume. The Dark Kingdom would no longer expand with fire and blood. Now it would expand with ideas. The seed had been planted, and it grew. Across the centuries, what began as a mere whisper in the abyss flourished into ideologies, political systems, social movements, and structures of thought. Humanity advanced technologically, but spiritually, it decayed. The modern world became an invisible battlefield. No one saw the swords, yet all felt the wounds. In parliaments, laws were debated that denied the very essence of humanity. In homes, love was transformed into indifference. In temples, faith was replaced by empty rituals and sermons without fire. Lucifer did not need to manifest. The system already worked for him. The ideas moved on their own spread, celebrated, protected. Meanwhile, in the forgotten corners of the world, some still resisted. They were few, very few. But they carried light in their hearts. They did not fight with swords, but with prayer. They did not conquer with power, but with truth. They did not impose, they simply stood firm. And that was what the Dark Kingdom feared most. For light does not scream. Light does not impose. Light simply reveals. When truth is revealed, deception loses its power. That is why Lucifer devised a new kind of attack: attrition.
Let them grow weary. Let them believe their struggle is worthless. That good is lost.
The demons carried out the plan with surgical precision. They fragmented truth into millions of micro-truths. They flooded the world with noise. They sowed confusion. They multiplied doubt. And little by little, what was once clear became blurred. The absolute turned into the relative. Conviction became suspicious. Faith became fanaticism. Hell did not advance with violence, but with entertainment, with distraction, with speeches disguised as compassion, with progress stripped of purpose. Darkness no longer marched in great strides. It infiltrated through imperceptible shadows, small concessions, subtle renunciations, well-crafted justifications. Hell was no longer being built beneath the earth. Now it lived in minds, and in hearts. The sun scorched the desert. The land, red and cracked, seemed like a sea of fire frozen in time. The air was thick, suffocating. There, alone in the nothingness, Jesus fasted. 40 days, 40 nights, his body weak, his soul unbroken. From the depths of the abyss, Lucifer watched. The Son of Man had come, and that changed everything. Lucifer rose from his throne in hell. His form dissolved into pure darkness. And like a specter, he crossed the veil between worlds. He appeared before Jesus. The wind stopped. Lucifer looked at him.
If you are the Son of God, turn these stones into bread.
Jesus looked at him, steadfast. Hunger burned his body.
Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God.
Lucifer smiled faintly. This was only the beginning. Irritated by Jesus' firmness, he took him to the pinnacle of the sacred temple in Jerusalem. From there, the world seemed small, almost irrelevant. The city moved on in its rhythm, ignorant of the divine confrontation unfolding above their heads.
If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down. For it is written, the angels will lift you up and you will not strike your foot against a stone.
Jesus did not blink. He did not hesitate.
It is also written, you shall not put the Lord your God to the test.
Lucifer clenched his teeth. This was no ordinary trial. Then he changed strategy. With an infernal flash, they were transported to a far higher mountain. From there, Lucifer showed him all the kingdoms of the world: gold, thrones, empires, armies.
All this I will give you if you bow down and worship me.
Jesus looked at him, firm, without hatred, without fear.
Away with you, Satan. For it is written, you shall worship the Lord your God, and him only shall you serve.
Lucifer stepped back. For the first time in millennia, he felt the absolute rejection. Jesus remained. The darkness shattered. The enemy, defeated, vanished into the shadows. At that instant, the desert breathed again. A gentle wind brushed over the burning sand, as if creation itself exhaled in relief. From heaven, a light descended. It was not the Sunday, it was presence, it was glory. Angels approached Jesus, not with trumpets, nor with heavenly spectacle, but with silence, with tenderness, with peace. They brought food, water, comfort, but more than that, they brought divine confirmation. You have overcome. Jesus, still weak in body, received what was given not with desperation, but with gratitude, not with pride, but with humility. Heaven had not forgotten. God had never turned his gaze away. It had been a test, and it was passed. Lucifer, defeated, returned to hell. His pride wounded, his power challenged. And though he failed, he would not surrender. He knew this battle was only the beginning. The desert, silent witness of the confrontation, carried the echo of victory. A victory without swords, without fire, a victory of faith. Jesus rose. He said no word. He did not need to. Every step announced a new destiny. Redemption had begun. And in the depths of the abyss, hell knew it. Hell was not born in an instant. It was forged slowly, like iron heated in rage. It was the fruit of hatred, of resentment, and of the pride of an angel who thought himself equal to God. Lucifer, on his throne of shadows, gazed upon the abyss with eyes aflame. Around him, the fallen...
It will not be enough merely to have fallen. We shall build something eternal. We will not be exiles. We will be lords.
Shadows began to take form. It was no longer emptiness. It was structure, idea, curse. Lucifer did not want only a kingdom. He wanted a monument to punishment, an altar of suffering for every lost soul.
Those who turn from God will be ours. And here, there will be no redemption.
The fire of hell does not purify. It consumes. Time here does not heal. It rends. The demons applauded. Something had been born, never before seen, neither in heaven nor on earth. Darkness was no longer a concept. It was matter. It was kingdom. It was law. Hell was not a threat. It was real. And for the first time, Lucifer walked among the incandescent ruins of his realm, while the structures of hell rose like open wounds. Towers of obsidian loomed in the distance, chains floated in the air, and the screams of condemned souls echoed as an eternal chorus of suffering. Every corner burned not with natural fire, but with despair that fed on broken souls.
This will not be only a physical punishment. It will be a reflection, a mirror of the corrupted soul. Every sin will have its echo, every dark desire, its eternal shadow.
At his side, Mammon, the demon of greed, watched him with reverence.
And how shall we draw them to us, my lord?
Lucifer leaned over an abyss that seemed to have no end.
By their desires, Mammon. Everything they long for, I will use. Their ambition, their fear, their insatiable hunger will be the gateway. Hell requires no visible chains. Human decisions will be the shackles. A lie, a betrayal, an impure thought. Everything serves.
Thus, hell ceased to be a distant warning. It became an inevitable destiny, a place created not to contain evil, but to reflect it. As the centuries passed, hell grew. Without raising armies, without shedding blood, the souls arrived, not pushed, not forced. They walked into the abyss on their own, convinced they did so by their own will. Hell was not merely